All right, so this is our October challenge and meetup for the month. So I am Jenny. I have created the Shifting to SOAR membership, and this is my new team partner, Megan, and she is actually going to lead this today for the most part. So we have a little presentation. We're going to talk about setting up your teacher binders and just organizing and getting yourself ready for your small reading groups.
I don't think we'll build the reading binder, but I will kind of give you an overview of what's in the binder. And then we will discuss the importance of student groupings, share assessment resources. So before we get started, kind of discussing the binder, if you haven't already checked it out, you can access the editable template in the membership. And this kind of gives you a little screenshot of where it's located under the header of Science of Reading Resources. And then you'll see the arrow's pointing right here, SOR Reading Binder, and that's where you can access the template that we will be sharing in today's presentation. Okay, so when building your binder, there are a few items that you will need: a 1-inch binder, paper, and then cardstock as well, if you'd like cardstock for like the cover part of the binder. And then we'll discuss kind of the importance of having Velcro dots. And I have a little example. This is just what I purchased from Amazon. It was like $6 and it's 80 circles and they're just little Velcro dots. And we'll kind of go into that a little bit later. And then also glue, tape, scissors, and then optional, if you want to laminate anything, or if instead of creating the binder tabs, you could always purchase binder tabs if that's easier for you. But again, I'll kind of show you what it looks like when it's all put together. Okay. All right, so these are just a couple screenshots of it. So I kind of have the binder put together right here. I believe it's a 1-inch binder. So kind of one of the first pages that you can put together, or I guess print, is the cover page. You can put your teacher name on it. And then I did not laminate it or put it on cardstock, but that's what you could do if you'd like. And then as well as the side part to kind of help keep you organized. Inside the binder, there's lots of different pages. So the first section is the reading groups page, and the template shows you how to create these tabs. It's really simple. You just cut out the rectangles and then tape. And then you can also laminate it too as well, so that they're kind of more sturdy and last longer. So the first section is an area for you to kind of organize your groups. And this is the area that I was talking about with the Velcro tabs, which I'll talk about that in a minute. So you can have as many groups. I believe the template has 11 or 12 groups. You can edit it. You can print out whatever you need. I just went to 6 groups because that was typically what I had in my classroom. But obviously, if you need more or less, you can print out whatever you need. And then there's also little template pages for you to be able to record your students' names. Let's see, another template right here to organize your students' names. There's just 4 boxes, so then you would print out however many pages you need. And then there's a section for student data. So this is probably where you would keep any, records of your students' assessments. And we'll talk a little bit about some assessments you could use. And then there's a section for conference notes. So when you're meeting with the students, you can keep track of, I believe, if you can see that, name, the date, observations, like a praise point, and then a teaching point. So just keeping track of the things that you're noticing when you're working with your students. In my experience, I haven't used Jenny's binder in the classroom, but I've used something similar. And in my experience, I didn't record conference notes for every single time we met, but I would try to do it like at least once a week. I think that was probably the easiest for me. I'm not sure if you want to add anything, Jenny, on that.
Yeah, no, I just whatever, you need to do to get your information. So,
yeah. And there was definitely more students that I think I would record notes for sometimes
right,
too, depending on if they had an IEP or something, or if I was like watching for a specific thing, I would record more. But this one has like 3 students on it. And then there's also a page where there's it's 1 student per page. So you could print out like multiples if you had just a couple students you wanted to keep track of, or however works for you in your system too. And then the last section of the binder is lesson plans. So there's obviously schedule, different templates. This one is kind of just smaller boxes, week of, and then there's a bigger sheet, and then there's also one that's this way too. So I believe that's it for the binder.
And with the lesson plans too, in the membership, we are working on some done for you lesson plans. And so you could always get those out of the membership and then put those in there too. So, and those are all editable also. So those could go in there.
Perfect. So kind of one of the important pieces that we wanted to discuss at the meeting was just how do you create student groups? And since reading is such a fundamental skill and there's so many different, areas that students might need help or might need growth in, it's important to create these small groups based on your assessment and instructional data, and then group your students based on the gaps that you see within their skills, their intervention needs, or enrichment opportunities. So this binder is just one way for you to keep everything organized. And it's just kind of like that one-stop shop that houses your assessment data, your lesson plans, and your notes. You can always, take things out when you're done using it, it's nice to have it in the binder and be able to move things around as needed too. So a couple different tips that we have for you in regards to creating groups is that part of the science of reading is that you're constantly making observations, constantly assessing your students, and that means that your groups can change often. So this is kind of where those Velcro dots come in handy. So there's a little picture down here, but I can kind of show you as well how I did it. I'm going to take it out of the binder so I can hold it up easier. I would recommend laminating these. I did not laminate them because I couldn't find my personal laminator, but I would recommend laminating your students' names so that they're easy to take off, but I'll show you kind of what I did. So I attached one type of it's kind of hard to see because it's white on white, but I attached one Velcro dot to the student name, and then there's one on the dot here so that, if this is my group one, and let's say Sarah has, she has a need in a different area and I want to move her to group 2, I can easily take her off, and then I don't have to reprint papers out. I don't have to erase a bunch of names. So the Velcro dots is just super easy, allowing you to quickly change your groups when needed. And then it allows you to just be flexible as well too. Sometimes we think we have a student in the right group, and then after working with them a little bit, we realize too that this is really not a good fit for them. It could even just be student pairing sometimes with behaviors. So that's kind of the first tip.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. So when I was in the classroom still, I used that all the time, and it was always changing. So it was just an easy way for me to keep track. So
yeah, I don't know if I've used Velcro dots before, but as far as reading groups go, my very first experience with reading groups when I was student teaching, she actually used sticky notes, which it's still the nice, it's nice to be able to move them quickly, but after a while, I feel like the sticky notes kind of lose the stickiness, or, your handwriting gets, her sticky notes were her elbow and wrist would smudge the writing at the end of the year, but I definitely really like the Velcro dot idea. So the second tip is that your groups are based on assessment data. We have a couple groups based on skills. For example, you may have students that need assistance with letter names or letter sounds, phonemic awareness or phonological awareness, phonics, decoding, fluency, or comprehension, or more. There are so many other areas that you could create groups based on, but it's essentially, what do your students need help in? What are the gaps? And then are there any needs for enrichment as well? Because we all have those 5 or 6 students that are just really skilled at reading, but what can we do to, create those enrichment activities as well for them? Tip number 3. So this is something that I was always cognizant of because I would not for reading, but in math, in my experience growing up, I was in a small group for math because I was not very good at it. And my teacher didn't really have like a creative name to keep our groups like that. So I kind of knew that I was in like a lower math group, and it kind of made me feel bad. And so just be mindful of your group names. You can be creative and make animal name groups or color names. The binder is editable, so you can change the group names. You can keep group 1, 2, 3, or you can change it and be as creative as you want. I thought that was a helpful tip. When I was in the classroom, my students loved when they were an animal of some sort. So I always stuck with animal names. Okay. And the last tip is before you create your groups, make sure that you give each student a placement assessment to see where each student is at. And you may have a district assessment that you have to use, or we will also provide a few examples for you I believe that's the next slide as well. Yeah, so these are just a couple different examples. The PAST is a phonemic awareness screener, and then the core phonics survey is basically like a phonics, I guess you call it, survey. I've used something similar to the core phonics survey in my experience, so I really liked that one. I've never used the PAST before, but then we also have another one from the Really Great Reading. They have a phonemic awareness one that you can also use. And then there's also phonics assessment inside the membership as well for you to use. So if you're not really quite sure where to start, you could start with the one in the membership, take a look at the links that we provided, and then hopefully that will kind of give you an idea of maybe what your students need, or what you're noticing you would like to focus on in your small groups as well. And then also too, I did link some sample assessments from the resources in the membership, so you can take a look at those, or just go right inside the membership and take a look at them. But I think this one is a CVC words assessment that I linked here just to look at it, in case if anyone had any questions when they were online with us. But so this kind of gives you a screenshot of where there's a phonics assessment in the membership. And I believe the next one is also what Jenny had mentioned about there's the template, or there's the ready done for you lesson plans, but then there's also this template that's inside the membership if you want to create kind of like your own lesson plan templates and have those ready to go and add it to your binder. And then a little quote of motivation: you got this. Creating the binder is the easy part.
Okay, well, I guess that was short and sweet.
Yeah.
And great job, Megan. I really appreciate you putting that together for us. And well, thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
We'll chat soon.